Okay, so I just watched the Meatcanyon's horror film that he put up on YouTube, and thought it was. Here's the thing, it was like it was well done, well made, well created, but I feel kind of like a weird, as a struggling filmmaker myself. Like I've made two documentaries, both of which will probably never see the light of day, full features. And as somebody who has to try to make a living off of doing like social media content for other people, and I don't, I've never gotten that viral movement um, locked in. Still working on some stuff, but I'm the kind of person like just when I had hit a point where I could move forward with a filmmaking career and like start to make the movies that I wanted to make, um, COVID happened, and it really threw a big wrench in my gears. Basically, set me back down to zero, and I've had to like reinvent and shift things around since then. And I'm lucky enough that I have some support mechanisms in my life that have enabled me to, not just out of my own pocket, but out of some others like my parents who support me, or friends or family who might try to help me out every now and then. My parents have been the main rock in this, but you know, being able to afford equipment, the kind of equipment that you need to make, even just like a basic standard movie to show your stuff. Now here's the thing: is I made a project a while back, and the camera equipment was just, it wasn't there. I knew it wasn't there. I told the people it wasn't there. Everybody, because they're not privy with what goes on, thought that it would work out anyway. And within like 3 years, everything that I did was considered subpar. So it's never helped me. Doing all that work has never helped me. Not really. And um, it wasn't even in the direction I wanted to go. It was having to do with like a sports broadcasting thing. And I'm more of a person who went to school for and am passionate about telling narrative stories, films. So now I'm at this point where I don't really live in a place where I have a lot of friends who either have the time or the desire to act. So I don't have actors. Sure, you can go on casting websites and cast actors, but that's going to cost money that I don't have, right? So I watched Meatcanyon's horror film, and it felt like a punch in the gut to people like me, because if I had that kind of budget and those kind of resources at my fingertips, um, I wouldn't have necessarily used it to just miss the opportunity of making a really, really good all around film. Basically, this, here's what I'm saying. Let me sit down for this one. It felt like he just made that to essentially make one of his animations into um, a feature, or like a film, a short film, a short horror film. And the feeling that I got by the end of it was that he just did it to really do that, and in tandem, like, have a lot of practical effects going on and play around in slime, um, which is funny, makes you laugh. But I felt like it was a missed opportunity to really show us what he has, because he talks a lot on his vlogs about other horror films and what sucks and what's really bad. And honestly, man, like, I thought he fell right into that category with the same stuff. Now, I watch a lot of films. Like, the saying that it kind of went in the industry when I was more active in it was that when you're not making a film, you're watching them to learn. So as you can imagine, when COVID hit, I had to move back home with my family. And I'm still not quite on my feet, but I'm just getting into the point where I can get back into new industries, shift into new different jobs that will bring me the kind of income where I can be out on my own again. And I'm a little bit too old at this point for that to happen. So it really, really affected me in an extremely negative way. So to see that and to watch that and to see that, like, oh, okay, I've now got this, because I know he started out in a car drawing his pictures and then animating on a tablet, and then he was like working with Flash Gits for a while, and then he finally separated and started doing his own thing, and he hit massive success on YouTube through that. So now he's at the point where he really has a lot of flexibility in what he can do for himself, and he's primed, like in his age and everything, to be doing that. So the timing is working out really well for him. And to see that was like, where is the storytelling aspect of this? So if you've seen it, it's the golden goose is sort of what he's molding the adaptation off of. So it's sort of an adaptation of the golden goose, or the goose that lays the golden egg. And he got that across, and it was there, but it just felt so oversaturated with this practical effects thing. Now, here's the fun thing about when you're making a film versus like an animation. In an animation, you have to really mitigate your time, because you're making every cell, you're drawing every cell, you're drawing every character. And I learned how to animate back in 2017 when Character Animator came out. So I started to learn, it made it a lot more accessible, and I learned a lot about how to become an animator, and effectively made just a few animations on my own. And I found it to be really time consuming, and it's very distracting. It takes away from a lot of other things. So I prefer getting people together and then like rolling a camera and making something happen, especially when you have like a good script. And I felt like he did not take the opportunity to really explore like what you could do outside of having a set and outside of having all these practical effects around. So this is the beautiful thing, is that like when you're making a short film, you have these little spots where you can throw scenes in that really help with the characterization, and you can build the off of the film to make it like a really immersive short film. So here's the thing, is I did feel like it was immersive and it was a short film, but I felt like there was a huge opportunity to make it even more immersive. And what he showed us in this was really cool, because he really got to act, and I think that he's a good actor. And I wanted to see a little bit more of that, but instead what we saw was just like a lot of squeezing, gory, effects. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to like spoil it too much, but and there was, basically this, he hooked me pretty good in the very beginning, and it's very short. It's not long at all. It's very short. And he had me hooked in the beginning, and I was like, oh, I'm in for this. And then about halfway through this very short thing, there's a scene that takes place. There's not many scenes, right? There's like, let's see here, 1, 2, I think there was 3 sets total. And there's one of the sets is a bathroom. And in the bathroom, there was some stuff going on that I don't want to spoil it, which was really cool. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see how he builds off this. But then it's just done. And it moves on into the resolution of the short film. So I felt like it was a majorly missed opportunity to really show us who you are as a filmmaker, rather than, an animator. So I don't know who's going to see this, or if anybody will see this, or if I'm even going to put this video up, because I'm filming it in a hotel room on a really crappy camera right now, helping my family business do some things. And I thought it was disappointing to me, because I didn't like it. I thought it sucked. I thought it was great with the practical effects. It was a good adaptation of, an animation that he would have made. See, here's the thing. It was a good animation in terms of like, it was exactly what the animation would have been. But in terms of like a film adaptation, it was not good because it didn't adapt into that format well. It did in the beginning, but then it just like fizzled off and it did its thing. So I don't know. It's just disappointing. I want to see more from him, but I don't want to see more of the same stuff. You know what I mean? I want to see him build and become better. And I was looking at the comments on the video, and they're all like really positive, which is great. And he deserves that. But I think people are missing the point. Like, there's nobody there that's telling him what I think he needs to hear about it. Because when you make a film, there's always things that you can improve, and creative feedback, even the negative stuff, is extremely useful to help become a better filmmaker and create your identity. I don't really feel like he separated his filmmaker identity from his animator identity. I think it's the same identity. So, which is, that's fine, but like to put that much effort into something of that scale and to like not really bring anything new to the picture, I felt was really the disappointing part. Yes, the practical effects and the cinematography was phenomenal. His acting was great. The story, this is where I think it lacked. I think he had a good approach on what story he wanted to tell, what the message was, but I don't think he adapted it for like into a short film very well. I think that he just again took the same structure that he animates with and just made that into a film. And some people might like that, and I admit that I'm extremely hard to please when it comes to like immersive filmmaking and content, like a movie that really like changes the way that you do things or makes you want to become a filmmaker. I don't think that this film that he made was anything that would do that for anybody, or maybe a very small amount of people. Like, I don't think this really creates a fire in somebody who's, think of like the younger generations these days going around on their excuse me, going around on their tablets and just like viewing social media content. I was, I'm the kind of person who hopes that like a kid will be stuck on their screen and see something like this and go, oh my God, like see a film and go, oh my gosh, I want to become a filmmaker. I don't really think this is going to provoke that in a lot of people. I think it just might make, I could be like totally off base here, but I think it's just going to permutate the idea of short form and shorter form and shorter form, and we don't have a huge attention span kind of content and putting a lot into that. And to me, that's just not very thought-provoking. I don't think a lot of younger viewers or casual viewers are going to even realize that this is an adaptation of an age-old fairy tale, or what is it, a parable? I don't think anybody's going to really identify that unless you're educated to it and you know it, and unless you follow him a lot and you know that like in each of his animations he is pulling out a parable of some kind or a message, usually. Anyway, I just wanted to say that and get off my chest because I've been having it's kept me up. Like, it actually, the movie, the short film has kept me awake in a negative way, not in one of those like, it has burned itself into me so much that I'm like, I can't get it out of my head and I have to watch it over and over again. I'm probably going to go back and watch it a couple times and see like, maybe I missed something here, that is that kind of provocative, but I think in one viewing I got the whole picture. And that to me is where, that's really specifically where I think the opportunity was missed. It took away the replay value of it. And a lot of the best films out there are movies that we go back to over and over and over and over and over and over again. You keep hearing about them, there's always references, and then new people come into the world, they're children, they grow up, and they're like they look for this stuff and they find these good movies. It's what modern filmmaking mostly lacks. Like when you watch most contemporary films coming off of Netflix or Amazon, um, they just don't have that thing. Like you watch it once and you go, meh, and you move on. I think we see maybe one to two, maybe two. I'd say one movie every 2 to 4 years that actually contains that value. I kind of look at it, for me, like specifically, I look at it as like the Kubrick factor. You know, Kubrick only made, I think it was 11 films in his career, and every single one of them is something that like you can go back to and watch over and over and over again and really sets a bar and changes the industry. And to do that with just 11 films and every single one of them is an absolute banger is, you know, that's prodigy stuff. That's like Mozart of filmmaking right there. So Francis Ford Coppola once was talking about like the more, you know, cameras becoming more available, and he said he was hoping that a little girl in like, I don't know, Iowa or Dakota or something would become the next Mozart. And I think that we're still waiting for that moment, especially with the format of content that's happening now. You know, there's nothing that really hits me. I think Jordan Peele was somebody who like kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, well, not nowhere. He came out of comedy, but then he hit us with like, this is what I can do. And in the beginning of his filmmaking career, I think a lot of the stuff he was doing was like, here's the thing, it wasn't really a lot of stuff, but like I think there was some stuff that was really good. Like I thought Nope was incredible. Like I thought it really surprised me. But everything else that he's done, I'm just like, this is just, you know, permutating the message that Hollywood wants you to stick with. And it's not timeless. You know, Nope was one that I thought was pretty timeless. So I just want to see somebody come out and, you know, and of course it's something that we're always reaching for and we're always striving for, but things happen in life and you kind of have to go with it. A lot of us pivot. For me, this is a passion that I don't want to give up, and I really feel like I haven't had my chance to do, you know, I'll give you an example. The last documentary that I did was like, I told a person, I said, I was putting a lot of effort into it out of pocket. In fact, it made me broke, and the people that I worked with didn't really have like a financial plan to get it distributed or anything, and I put all this stuff on the table, and they didn't have a budget. So I went out of my way to make sure that like what I was making, I was going to contribute my all into, so that it was something that I could die and be proud of. And for me it was. And long story short, you know, other people don't agree with it, and it's not, you know, it's not entirely mine, and I don't necessarily have the say of what is done with it. So I'm also in this disappointed place where I spent a year doing that, working fully on that, putting everything else aside and not looking at any opportunities and just focusing on that. And then everybody's just like, yeah, no, we're good. Even though most of the people who saw what I had done that were involved were like, this is great, it made me cry, it's unbelievable. And I'm like, okay, cool, so like that's good. But for a few, I feel like wanted to imprint themselves on it a little bit more, and because of that, it's just now in this place where nothing is happening. And to me, it's disappointing for me. So what it has done is it's made me isolate myself more in terms of like, okay, I need to stop collaborating and just focus on what I can do myself. So the one thing I will say is that it did encourage me to start thinking and moving a little bit more on some ideas that I've had about short form film content on YouTube. And the issue that I've been running into there, again, is it's just talent. It's just getting the people involved, but there's not enough people around me in the place that I live and in the, you know, my situation that are available without having a budget. Like I could pay people, but I don't have the money to pay them. So there's nobody that really that wants to be involved or can be involved or really has what it takes to be involved. So I've been thinking more about content and things that I could do where perhaps, and it's very tough to do this, it's not easy. It sounds easy, but it's not easy. But just doing it by yourself, like filming yourself, making a short film. You're the star. You wrote it. You direct it. And you really have to, like, when you're thinking about how to do that, you really have to think about the story to make it something that's provocative. You want them, when you're doing something like this, you want people to feel like there was a crew involved and there was heavy resources involved, so that when they learn that this was just you and you did this just like in, spare time that you could find, and you're not in like, yeah, then it really blows them away, especially people who are looking to discover new filmmakers and rising filmmakers, for good stories and content, because to be able to do that takes a lot of passion, drive, motivation, knowledge, education, skills. I mean, you name it. There's a saying, right? I'm a jack of all trades, but master of none. Well, when you can do that with a film, it means that when it comes to the film production world, you're the jack of all trades and the master of all of them. And it can be done, but it's very difficult. And again, it takes a huge amount of luck to even get something like that to work and push you forward. So again, these are the thoughts that I'm having when I watched what Meatcanyon did, and I wanted to get this out there too, because whether he would see this or not, I just wanted these thoughts to be out there so that they're known and they can be referenced, because I really think the guy has a huge amount of potential. I watch a ton of horror and thrillers because I work on them. Like, that's what I write screenplays about and shorts about, that a lot of them are just sitting there and I haven't been able to make them yet. But that is an area that I study heavily because I don't like most of the horror and thriller films that I see out there. Now, when I think about like The Shining, that movie terrifies me, right? Like, it's very scary for me, and I thought it was so well done, and it's timeless. It's one of those ones that I'm just, it's up on the pedestal. But then when I compare like The Shining to something like Nope, while it still is a thriller or horror, it didn't really scare me. I just thought it was good and memorable, and it had a footprint, but not a big footprint. It was like enough that it makes it unique, and maybe something that you might go back to in time over and over again. But like The Shining, for instance, is something that I go to every single year, and another one of Kubrick's that does this, and this one actually like does make me think a lot, and there's a lot behind it. I'm not going to get into that, maybe in another video, but it's A Clockwork Orange. A Clockwork Orange is another one that just, you really think about it, and it reminds me of that My Chemical Romance song, Teenagers, because it's, to put it in a nutshell, he's taking a story that's about adolescence and growing up, and he's showing you how terrifying the youth is and what's going on in their heads, like gangs and why they have mindless, pointless violence. And I think we see a lot of that happening today on the streets, more than I'm used to. Like, it's capping, and the cap is just increasing. And that's very scary, because it's like you have thousands and thousands of Alexes out there in that phase, in that youthful phase where they don't realize yet that they're Alex. And that's a really hard thing to combat. So that's where the terror is in the idea that Kubrick has made. So those are two, those are two Kubrick examples. There's a few other horror movies that really get, like, I'll give you another one. 28 Days Later was one that came along, and that one, the thing that really blew me away on that is that when it started, I was like, what am I looking at? The quality is so, but then it was so immersive that it didn't matter that they were filming it on, I think it was like, God, I think they filmed it even on it was like in 720p, I think. Like, the resolution was horrible, and then they up-resed it for the cinema. And it has this digital grain that just looks absolutely terrible, but then it sort of complements the film, and it makes you feel like it's gritty in this post-apocalyptic world. And again, we're talking about I think this was like one of the first zombie movies that had fast zombies in it. So to see zombies like just going fast was like, yeah, zombie apocalypse movies were like the Night of the Living Dead. They were more fun, but they were never like scary. Like, they're categorized as horror and thriller, but I didn't feel like it was doing that. because you know you got these slow moving zombies like and like they just push it over with a stick. But then when you have fast zombies, it's something that changes the game. It raises the bar. It changes the way that those types of films are made. So what I really want to leave this with is I think that Meatcanyon has the ability, the audience, and the resources to raise that bar when it comes to looking at practical effects again and what they do for cinema, because we do inject movies and everything with way too many digital effects that just don't sell. And while the casual viewer doesn't really bother them that much or this or that, you know, you can't really have like a cinephile discussion with a casual viewer either. It's the same thing when it comes to authors who write books. You know, there's people go, oh, I enjoy that book, you know, because they're just casual readers. But when you get into like a literary person and they read that book, they're like, it was absolute trash, and it you know, people are gonna forget about it. So I hope he keeps making stuff, and I hope to see some really good stuff in there. But I also would love to see him work with other writers. Like, I would love to see him turn somebody else's content into, meld it with his idea and his world. Because to me, and in my experience, that's where some of the most beautiful stuff comes from. And that applies to Kubrick, because, and I'll tell you why just really quick, but let's take A Clockwork Orange, for example. Go pick yourself up, if you're into that movie, and if you want to learn more about this, go pick yourself up a copy of Anthony Burgess' novel, A Clockwork Orange, and read the forwards and then read the book. And there's a very, very specific thing in there about, I mean, Anthony Burgess hated Kubrick's adaptation, absolutely hated him for it. But it's a really good, like, perspective and look into what, you know, what made it an adaptation rather than just a film version of the book, like what an adaptation is. And I say adaptation a lot, and I really look at how things are adapted, because that is one of my main focuses. That was one of my core focuses when I was educating myself in film, and it's something I stick to today, and I look at everything with those eyes. So just wanted to say that. And also, hi, because I don't really make these kinds of videos, but I think I'm going to start more because it's more accessible, it's faster, it's easier, it takes less time, and I think it helps provide information to the community. And I'm getting a little bit more time these days to be able to do it, and I have the resources to do it. It's just, you know, making the time to do it, and also, you know, not letting it distract you from other goals. So anyway, I hope this video, I don't know, finds somebody, or you find some kind of thought or perspective out of this. It opens your mind a little bit, makes you look at it in a different way. So maybe we'll do a reaction video about it sometime later. But right now, you know, I'm on the road, and I'm going to go, while I'm on the road helping family out, I can never get the idea of making films out of my head. So I'm going to try to use this time to see what I can do with what I have here with me and what I have with me. And that's the other piece of advice that everybody should have, is like, work with what you have, not with what you want. Work with what you have. So if you have a good idea, try to adapt that idea into what you have. It's challenging, but it pays off. Peace.